Thank you very much for staying in our group. Hopefully this will be a little bit of a different spin on this whole issue of AI ethics. I don't want to talk about it at a high level. I want to drop down to a very particular issue, the issue of Lovebots. Why did I decide to talk about Lovebots? I mean, what exactly does this really have to do with the time of day? Well, the fact of the matter is that everybody's talking about this. This is not science fiction. I bring for you just a few articles from popular media. These are all from this year, and I could keep adding to them. The New Atlantis, does marriage have a future? People are getting married to Lovebots. People are engaging with chatbots that are built to basically be your partner. It's a huge issue. Now, to start this discussion, I thought we'd start it on a little bit of a humorous note. I want to play for you a clip from Woody Allen's Play It Again, Sam.
It's quite a lovely Jackson Pollock, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
What does it say to you?
It restates the negativeness of the universe, the hideous, lonely emptiness of existence, nothingness, the predicament of man forced to live in a barren, godless eternity, like a tiny flame flickering in an immense void with nothing but waste, horror and degradation, forming a useless, bleak straitjacket in a black, absurd cosmos.
What are you doing Saturday night?
Committing suicide.
What about Friday night?
Okay, so I think this really encapsulates it. First of all, Judaism, of course, would not agree to the statement that we're in a black, empty existence. Nevertheless, Judaism would very much agree that men are obsessed with sex. We see it in the Zohar when the evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara, overcomes a person. It is by nothing other than sexuality. Now, what this means is the Yetzer Hara in these midrashim, which I'll explain, basically the Yetzer Hara, as known as the evil inclination, is not evil. The evil inclination is basically an inclination. It's the yetzer. A yetzer is connected to yitziratiyut, our creativity. It's what gets us up in the morning. It's what takes us to go to school or to work, to get a degree, to get married, to have kids. Basically, the Midrash says without the yetzer hara, the world would not exist. So then the question is, so why do you call it ra? Why is this inclination that gets us to do everything called evil? So the Midrash tells us, because you make it evil. It's a drive. You can do whatever you want with it. Unfortunately, people abuse it as opposed to use it. So the question is, are Lovebots a use or an abuse of our technology? This is a huge debate in the secular world. I bring you just two big voices in it. One is David Levy. He wrote a book called Love and Sex with Robots in 2008. He predicts that by 2050, love with robots will be as normal as love with other human beings. He welcomes this change. On the other hand, we have somebody by the name of Sherry Turkell. She's a sociologist, professor at MIT. She wrote a book called Alone Together. She explains as follows. The machine could be preferable for any number of reasons to what we currently experience in the sometimes messy, often frustrating, and always complex world of people. What she's saying is that people always go to the easy solution. And having relationships with other people are messy, frustrating, and complex. And so we will obviously go to the machines. But then she says, a love relationship involves coming to savor the surprises and the rough patches of looking at the world from another's point of view. What she's saying is that relationships aren't just about getting what you want, when you want, how you want. Relationships are about becoming something else, becoming something better. If you get what you want, when you want, how you want, you remain a kid in a candy store and you never grow up. So that's the claim on both sides. What do the Jews have to say about it? Well, I think it's important to bring the Jewish debate because Jews have been arguing about ethical issues longer than anybody on the face of the earth. And so we also have to deal with this. I ran into a blog several years ago. It said as follows: to the best of my knowledge, no one has yet refuted the claims of Rabbi Isaiah Horowitz, also known as the Shlah, regarding the permission of engaging in relations with a female golem, with a Lovebot. So he's saying there's some explanation of this rabbi known as the Shla who permits Lovebots. So what is that Shla? So this is the Shla, amazingly enough, or coincidentally, it's his explanation on a verse in this week's Parshat HaShavua. It turns out that the AI week was delayed so that it would line up with this. Anyway, so it says as follows, Vayave Yosef et dibatam ra'ai al avihem. It's talking about Joseph when he brings the evil report of his brothers to his father Jacob. So what was in that evil report? So the Midrash says there were several things. What interests us here, Vahayu chashudim ba'arayot. The brothers were suspect of sexual immorality. So now the Shla says, how can that be? We're talking about the progenitors of the Jewish nation. Great righteous people the brothers were. How could they be suspect of sexual immorality? And then he says, but on the other side, if they're not, so how could Joseph, who's also a great leader of the Jewish people, be a liar? So to answer this question, he says, Shamati shenimtza bekovitz yashan. He says, I heard that there was in an old compilation of Midrashim a story that talks about how the brothers made a female golem using this book called Sefer Yetzirah, which is basically this mystical book of creation. They made themselves a female golem. And the Shla ends like this. Harei lecha ki hashvatim hayu tzadikim v'gam Yosef hu tzadik yesod olam. And so because this was a female golem, nothing happened. And so the brothers are righteous because there's no problem with a female golem. And Yosef was righteous because he didn't lie. He just didn't understand what he saw. He thought they were with a female human being. So it seems that our blogger has a source to say that Judaism allows Lovebots. No, so much so that in the 18th century, the Munkacher Rav quotes the Shla, and he says, De'ein lo legolem torat adam klal, l'shum davar. A golem is not a human, it has no human moral status, and so none of the laws that apply to humans apply to the golem. It's like a chair, a table, or a Lovebot. And he says, Davar shenivra, shum davar ba'olam, umishum hachi shapir delo chasheshu la leisur erva v'hu muvan. And so he says, there's no sexual impropriety with a golem or a Lovebot. If that wasn't enough, so in the 21st century, John Loicky published an article in Yeshiva University's Torah Umada. This is Orthodox thought. He says, it appears from Rabbi Horowitz, the Shla, and others that there is no prohibition on having sexual relations with a golem. So there you have it. But then I ask a very simple question. Really? I mean, is that all it takes? Is one Kovitz Yashan Sheshamati, some midrash somewhere? I'm not putting down the authenticity of the midrash, but is that how we fix our values? Isn't there more to how we decide what is right and what is wrong, what is called ethics? So I want to say for you, let's look into this a little bit deeper. First of all, they used to call the Shla HaKadosh, the holy rabbi. He didn't get his name holy from allowing Lovebots. The fact of the matter is he's called holy because he said on the verse, Kadoshim to you, you should be holy people. What does that mean? It means that you should be almost ascetic. It means that you should frame your intimate relationships in holiness, in purity, and then he says it's Kadosh Me'od. So what he is saying is that we need to really be modest in our intimate relationships, and so there's no way that he would have condoned, permitted, in any way, shape, or form the frivolity that surrounds Lovebots and intimate chatbots. But even if we put aside the Shla, and we agree the Shla would have never said what we were trying to impute to him, the claim itself stands. A golem has no human moral status. That claim is held by many people. One of them is the Chazon Ish, who is a great posek. He says, Kol hanoladim yichusanu mishpatam yashuv lefi molodehem. He says, we judge creatures, entities, according to their parentage, according to their birth. You were born from a tiger, you're a tiger. You were born from a human being, you're a human being. So then he says, Shenivra b'sefer Yetzirah, but if you were created from a mystical book of incantations or a computer engineering book, in either case, nira de'ein lo kol zechuyot Yisrael v'karov she'ein lo kol gam zechuyot adam. He says somebody that was just conjured has no human moral status. So that aligns with what we just said, the Shlah says. It's the female golem has no status. But then just a few paragraphs later, you can't say that he didn't know what he just wrote. He says, Behema shenivret al yedei sefer yetzira chayav haroveya. He says, if you conjured an animal and somebody committed bestiality with it, they would be obligated to the death penalty. You would kill somebody who had relations with an animal. The din haTorah ne'emra lo rak al hamin ela al kol echad shenimtza b'zeh hadmut. He says because the rules of the Torah apply to anything that looks like this thing. So wait a minute, he just contradicted himself. On the one hand, you just told me we go by what it was born to, and if it was conjured, it has no rules. And now you just told me it was conjured by Sefer Yetzirah, and we go by the rules of the Torah because it looks like an animal. So what is it going to be? We go by parentage or we go by appearances? So this contradiction was resolved by Rav Dr. Hanok Kain, who quotes the Chazon Ish, and he says, Din erva shoneh. The rules of intimate relationships are different. Mipnei shebo haTorah asra et etzem hamaaseh. The Torah prohibited the act. I don't care if you did it with a real animal or a look-like animal. It's the act itself which is prohibited. And so basically this psak says you can't have relations not with a female golem and not with a lovebot. But now I want to just say that we fix our rules not only by halachot, but by our values. We learn our values through our texts, the most seminal text being the Bible itself. The Bible starts with the verse, and the Lord said, it is not good that man should be alone. I will make for him a helpmeet, an ezer kenegdo. So what is this ezer kenegdo that we're supposed to be trying to have relationship with? So the very next verses say, God made the animals, and he brought the animals to Adam to see if he could find an ezer kenegdo, a helpmate. And for Adam, there was not found a helpmeet. So doesn't God know that Adam is not going to find a helpmeet with the animals? So Rav Hirsch and others say, of course God knew. God had the animals brought to Adam in order that Adam should understand that he doesn't have relationships with animals or female golems or lovebots. A relationship is how you grow up. A relationship is about being involved with somebody that's going to be messy, frustrating, and complex. A relationship is about learning how to see the world from another person's perspective. It's about growing up. And so I want to just end that we determine our values not just on one midrash. That midrash is valuable, but we need to look at it in the context of what we call a thick moral framework. A thick moral framework is made up of narratives, whether they be from the Bible or the midrash. It's from halachot, laws. It's from a guiding moral norm, love your neighbor as yourself. All of what we do needs to align with this to bring us to the ultimate goal. Why are we trying to be moral people? It's to reach what the Rambam says, "Hatachlit bo'olamim v'kol asher bohu ish hamelumad bal midot tovot." The goal is to create an individual who is both wise and moral. I submit to you that having relationships with lovebots and female golems are not going to bring us to this goal of a wise and moral person. It's a true ezer kenegdo that we need. Thank you very much.